Just going to switch screens here real quick. So yeah, I wanted to start with just a simple thank you to Toby and listening to some of the things already being said. People are talking about friendship and how that started with Toby, and how he's got a different perspective on hockey, how he enriches folks' lives. And all I can say is, if you're at the beginning of this relationship with Toby, you're in for a great ride. I met Toby a series of years ago. I was the head of the hockey board here, and I didn't really know much about hockey. My dad was a football coach in town, so I knew sports that way. I knew kids, and pretty quickly we got together and found just an amazing alliance in terms of how um, how we can help kids. And so you're going to hear from me, and I'm not going to be able to talk to you a lot about the hockey world, but I am going to talk to you about how we can coach and teach because I see them as the same entity. And so for me, it's really about what this slide says. How do we create these conditions for optimal learning and also optimal performance? I think we have this capacity to reach kids in powerful ways, and we have the capacity to make them better hockey players, but also make them better people, make them better teammates. And so I think there's a lot of things we've sort of gotten wrong over the years in teaching and in working with kids. And so Toby asked me to sort of like review those things. So I'm going to blast through those, hopefully in 20 or 25 minutes, and we'll see where we get to. One of the things we need to talk about is this idea of what does it mean to be a team even. So we often have this perception that if I get the most skilled players together, that's what it's going to be. And we do the same thing in academics. Sometimes if we think we have the kids that test at the highest level, we're going to have the best school and the best learning environment. But there's lots of different ways of looking at that. There's a book Daniel Cole wrote called Culture Code, and what he talks about is really it's not always about the skill; it's about what we create, those interactions between teammates. How do we pay attention to that? So he goes into this great story about they got these people together and they give them a really simple task. Here's a weird task even. Here's a bunch of spaghetti, a dried spaghetti, and they have to build this bridge, and they have to build it to the highest one they can build. How do they do it? And they gave this test to got students together from grad school who were MBAs and professionals, and they all built a certain level of height of tower out of this. But the group that had the most successful height was actually a group of kindergarten kids. And part of the reason, really young kids, part of the reason that was because they weren't so worried about doing it right, about who should be the leader. They just got together and worked their ideas. And so one of the things he found in his research is that if we have a strong culture, it can increase our business income as much as over 700%. And that's amazing. And I would say the same thing can apply to how effective we are in the classroom, how effective we are as a coach, how our team is working. And so those are things we should be paying attention to as a team, as a coach. How is the dynamics of our team working? So bottom line, what he points out and what I think is really true is we're in the culture building business. If we're coaches, if we're teachers, we're looking at our team, we're looking at our classroom, and we're saying, what's going on here? How do we help these guys work together? How do we build these relationships? How do we build these dynamics? And again, we can look at Slapshot and find these guys pounding the tar out of each other. And, that's one way to build dynamics. And there's definitely some different approaches. But, in terms of how we can come together, there's a lot to be said. So one of my favorite quotes comes from that book also, and he talks about, this culture building takes a lot of work, a lot of energy. And he quotes Sam Rayburn, who says, any jackass can kick down a barn, but it's going to take a special carpenter to build one. And again, that's all of us working together. And, with leadership from folks like Toby and what you're getting in Latvia, like that sort of support and dynamic together can help us really build something amazing. So I don't know about hockey coaches. I haven't done a lot of presentations to hockey coaches. I can tell you that, presenting to teachers always presents a challenge. We teachers love our kids to sit in class and listen and take good notes. And then you present to teachers and they're the worst. They get up, they walk around, they leave, they're on their phones, they're not paying attention. And then more than that, they also like, oh, I totally do this. I got this. I don't need to listen to this Yahoo. And so anyway, I'm just saying, don't be that guy. Let's give it a shot. Let's talk about it. Let's think about how we can improve our performance. Yeah, so I want to start with, like, as Toby pointed out, these sort of old conditions. What's going on that is holding us back? And ultimately, I would say it's sort of bad dated psychology. We're looking at the world through this dated view that never really matched human behavior very well. And I'd say we've come a long way. Brain science and all the studies that have come out in the past 30 years, and it's still fairly recent, that are changing things. And I'll get to those in a minute. But as a teacher in the sort of old model, or coach, we really have sort of two tools. We use rewards and punishments, and then we sort of like shoot for obedience. These kids need to do what I say. They need to listen up. They need to get in line. They need to do exactly what I say. And that's super effective at times. I led kids in the backcountry and on backpacking trips and hiking trips, and I still do through our school. But there are times when, if we're on top of a mountain and the storm is coming in and lightning is coming at us, I want my kids in that moment to be obedient, and I want them to shut up and listen, and let's get down the hill now. There are times when we're sitting in the valley bottom and it's a sunny day and we're going to choose which way to go. Obedience isn't what I want. I want them to choose. So I need to know when to employ this and when not to. And we often, as adults, choose obedience, like listen to me in this moment, in times where we don't need to. And so I think we can give the kids more control. And of course, this is dependent on their age. And turns out this is super effective in a short term, using these rewards and punishments and these sorts of things. Super effective in the short term, but not so much in building people and building human beings that can really, and even team players that can think on the ice and do these sorts of things. Hockey is a super complex sport. And so for the kids to be able to react on the ice, make decisions, make choices, face that complexity, they have to do some thinking on their own. And if we train them to be nothing but obedient, we're gonna miss a lot of skills that they can use. Toby tells me that you guys are suffering from sort of a loss of kids at age 14, 15. And that's not uncommon. As kids hit that adolescent phase, they really start making choices for themselves. But it also indicates that if that's going on, we have this capacity to give them more power and they'll stay more engaged. So there are lots of negatives to using this reward and punishment system. We learn not just what the rewards and punishments are about, but who's giving them out and how to like kiss up to that person, how to curry favor with that person, who's handing out rewards. I need to be in good with that person. I need to avoid the people who are throwing out those punishments. So what we don't want to create is a bunch of hockey players that, and you're going to hear this today a lot of different ways, which is fascinating. We did a little run through from, strength coach to coaching coaches to myself, who, again, isn't in the hockey world so much. But this dynamic of how do we create the type of people that can react and respond. So we need to create that by changing how we're approaching the kids. One of the other mistakes we make is kids are seen as replaceable parts. We have no connections with them, no relationships. We're making the mistake of constantly looking for that most skilled player, and only that most skilled player who comes in with sort of it all together. And what we want is to build them. Take it wherever they're coming in. All right, let's build from there. And let's build those relationships to build that team culture. Okay, so if that's the stuff that isn't working so well, what do we do? One of my points, Toby's talking about the evolution of the game. We're behind the times. one of the things that I observe is, I don't think there's really anything new ultimately in any of this. This is about us being humans, and we've been humans for a long time. And so really, what are those conditions that we can tap into, how best to connect to us as humans? And so here they are. I would say there's 4 of them that for us to think about, for you guys to think about as coaches. How do we motivate our kids? And so we used to use reward and punishment. What else can we do? There's something called growth mindset I want to talk a little bit about. I think that's very important, and helps us really give us something to think about in terms of what we're doing, how we're using language, how we're coaching the kids. How are we building team culture? I've already mentioned that already. And so that's vital in terms of like what's going on with our team. And then I don't know if we'll have time to get this one, but you've got my slides. But I want us to be paying attention to those natural biological systems as they age. There's a reason that 14 or 15 kids are stepping away from the game. That's a very prime developmental age. They're making key choices. So how do we work with those systems that already exist, that are far stronger than anything I can do with rewards and punishments? Those are hardwired into the kids for a million years of human development. So if we pay attention to those, we're going to be doing all right. Oh, my screen seems to be frozen. I can't move. Oh, there we go. I hope I'm still on. I've just lost some screen. I'm going to keep plugging on unless I hear from Katie that you can't hear me.
Chris, we can hear you, just no shared screen. Your slides are not up.
All right. A lovely face. Let's try that again.
You're good.
Okay. Try again. Sorry about that. Here we go. Okay, so on to thinking about motivation. So in the old world, we used to think about this extrinsic motivation, motivating kids from the outside. That's the reward and punishment. Like, you're a bad kid, we're going to punish you. You're a good kid, we're going to give you little gold stars and do these sorts of things. And but what we really want to do is work from the inside out. We want to develop this sense that the kids want to play hockey. So how do we do that? Well, again, if we tap into the brain science and pay attention to what's going on inside the kids, we all get these dopamine rushes, this feel-good chemical. Anytime we experience creativity, novelty, human connection, learning some new skills, we get better at something, we master that shot and we really figure out how to go Bardowski. So that's amazing. That feels good naturally. So we want to tap into that. It's far stronger than what I can do as a coach with some sort of reward and punishment thing. So it's important to think about creativity, novelty, how are we forming connections, so that novelty, are we doing the same practice plan every day? The kid comes in, gets bored, they leave. Creativity, are they feeling like they have some power and choice when they skate down the ice, or are they just told to go to this position and shoot the puck from there, and they get no say? How do they react in the moment? One of the things that's amazing about hockey that you have a benefit that I don't as a teacher, I'm sitting there trying to lecture these kids about history, which isn't always the most intrinsically motivating thing for a 13-year-old to listen to. You have this amazing game where kids are playing. And play is something that we've learned a lot about over the years as well. Play is this amazing biological drive we have from kids on up through adults. We still have it as adults. We tend to think as adults we don't need to play. That's not true. If you listen to Toby on the ice, he's playing. If you listen to me in the classroom, I'm playing. All of you guys at Imagine are having some level of play and fun as a coach. I know there are moments where it's not fun too, but that sense of play where we are driven to get in there and do it and have fun with it, that's coming from within. If we can tap into that, and again, you've got hockey on your side, that is such a great sense of play. So if we're doing something that allows the kids to tap into that play, which you have, getting touching the puck, doing all those things that you'll hear about later from people smarter than me in that regard. But why it works is this idea of play. And again, rather than rewards and punishments, if we tap into stuff from the inside, we can think about, like, are they being autonomous? That's what we all eventually want to do. And again, this might not be true of a 6-year-old just starting. Are they learning to be their own people? Are they getting better at the skills? Are they mastery? Do they know why they're doing it? The sense of purpose. Like, I don't know, like, I just keep showing up to hockey. My dad wants me to play, but is that really what we are doing as coaches? How are we helping them see all of those sides of things, so that coming in on a better understanding of motivation and how we can motivate the kids and connect to that motivation through all of these different methods is going to help us be more effective coaches, without a doubt. And when we talk about mastery, we often think of mastery of hockey, but one of the things you're going to hear today, and one of the reasons why I love working with Toby, is because we're not just talking about like the right skill on the slap shot or whatever. We're talking about, like, boy, when you came down, you were really angry. You were out of control. You're not thinking well. How do we get you to, like, calm down in that moment so you can actually shoot the puck, pay attention to the ice? So you're going to hear today from all these different people things about, like, the skill of hockey, but also that the physical side, but also the mental and emotional side. And both of those are super important in terms of how our kids are responding, how they're connecting to you as the coach, connecting to the team. And all of that increases their motivation when we can tap into all of those things. So I mentioned this idea of growth mindset. So this was an idea that Carol Dweck came up with. And she did this study where she found that there are two different types of mindsets people have, either fixed or growth. And it was in a classroom setting. And if we tended to use rewards and punishments, we tended to develop people who were developing these fixed mindsets. And what they learned was that, intelligence was something that was fixed. I couldn't develop it. I was either smart or I wasn't. I was either good at math or bad at it. Versus a growth mindset, which is something that I can develop. So, okay, math is hard, but I just have to work at it. And maybe that kid is doing better than me. That doesn't mean they're better all around. It doesn't mean a lot of things. And so if we can tap into this growth mindset, we're going to help kids develop and stick with it longer. And so this transfers not just to learning in the classroom, but also skills, hockey skills, and those sorts of things. But can abilities and skills be developed? Of course they can. That's the whole purpose of getting them in through the years. So sometimes we make the mistake of just targeting and trying to find, the best player. And we need to, like, oh, let's work on this kid. What is he doing on that shot? Let's get in there and help them. One of the things that's amazing about a fixed mindset is what it creates is this defensiveness, this urgency to prove self, this idea that failure means I'm not talented and I might as well just quit. So I'm not good enough. I'm just going to, like, I missed that shot, forget about it. As opposed to if I have a growth mindset and I miss that shot, I go, I got to work harder. So that idea is amazing in terms of once you realize the language we're using and how it helps develop either growth or fixed mindsets, what we can do with that in terms of the kids. So what happens in a classroom is if we're developing fixed mindset, what she found in her studies is that the kids who were labeled, oh, you're so smart, you're so good at math, you're a straight A student, gold stars, all these different praises we give them, they begin thinking they are just that amazing math student. And we can say the same thing about hockey. You are great at hockey, and we can develop this fixed mindset about hockey. Then what happens if we give them a challenge? If we give them, a really challenging test or really challenging game or drill, and they have this fixed mindset, what happens is they're going to choose the easier path, because what they want is the praise. They want you telling them they're great. They want that feeling that they're great. If we develop this growth mindset, they're going to love that challenge. Ooh, I got to get better at that. And so we have the capacity to shape that and how we speak on the ice, what we talk about, what we pay attention to. And so this is, if we can develop this, and we can, it's super important. A key thing to help them develop it is where we point our praise. So I've talked about rewards and punishments. Obviously, we want to pump kids up. We want to tell them good job at certain points. But what we want to do is we want to pay attention to when they're working hard. God, you worked really hard. That was amazing. Great stuff. We don't want to tell them constantly, like, you're so good at hockey. You have the best shot on the team. And that might be true. But we don't want to just constantly pay attention to just that. Because if we just feed them this idea that they are good, they are great, then it loses that desire to really work hard. And that's what we want to build. So we have to know what type of feedback we're giving them at what point in time. Every kid wants to feel that appreciation. They come off the ice and they just had a great run. Yeah, great job. That was great. We need to know when we're just giving them some little coaching tips that are like quick. And then we need to know when it really counts. And this happens in the classroom all the time. We create this confused mindset for kids when everything has to matter. And so we're just doing a little practice thing in class and we give the impression that it's the same as this big test. And no, we're working on it. So, it can be playful. It can be moving around. Oh, you really got to develop that. Let's work on this. And just knowing where you're shifting between, like, okay, this one really counts. Let's really focus. We're gonna really measure your speed here. We're gonna test you. The rest of the time, we're gonna go back and forth. Oh, we can get better at that. Let's keep working on it. And so I threw this on. There's another person who talks about this, but the power of yet. The idea is, we haven't developed that yet. That's okay. We're gonna get there. We're working on that skill. You're working on that skill. It's all right. Don't worry about it. We're getting there. So that helps them develop that growth mindset, helps them develop that sense of, oh, I can do it. I just got to work harder and get into it. So this is from the book Growth Mindset. And so the visuals just show that if we develop this fixed mindset, the kids tend to avoid challenges, get defensive at obstacles. They see effort as not worth doing. They learn to defend themselves against criticism or not like that feedback. And then when they see somebody else doing well, they just feel inferior and they're like, forget it, I'm going to quit. Whereas if we can develop that growth mindset, that whole chain of giving them a challenge, facing obstacles, they just get stronger at each step of the way. And again, this is all within the capacity of us to develop in our players, depending on the culture we build, how we work together with them, and how we use motivation and whatnot. I've talked about team culture, and I'll just hit this quickly. You guys know how to build team culture, so I don't need to do too much on it. But it's something that, again, team culture taps into that dopamine rush, that feel-good brain chemicals, and so we're if we do that well, we keep that going amongst our whole team. We want to make them all feel that connected, welcome. They have a place here. So we want to pay attention to things like team meals on and off the ice. How do we build that? One of the things that people often hear when we say things like this is that, oh, we're going to make kids soft. We're going to, we're just lying to them. No, we don't want to hide the truth. Like, hey, you got work to do here. That's okay. That's part of that growth mindset. We want to build a space where we're challenging everybody to grow and develop. And that's part of the culture that we build here. So this is something I said that probably I don't have enough time to really run through, but you're going to hear more about it as the day goes on. But I just wanted to throw it all up there. You've got this slide. But the American Development Model talks about like these forces, these biological forces. And I just want to point out, like, I think there's a couple of key phases in development, and this is taken by a guy, Kim John Payne, up to age 9. They're really focusing on that, like, I can do it. This is super fun. And their inner voice isn't really developed yet. So like, they still believe in Santa. So they still live in this crazy fantasy world, but they just want to be safe, have fun. So that's our task, is just to keep that energy going. Then they hit that teen tween era, 10 to age 13, that inner voice develops and they start really thinking like, holy cow, like I'm going to be dangling down the ice and I'm going to do this amazing thing. And that inner voice takes over and we can play with that and we can support their individual growth in that later years and that high school age. And this is the age I teach much more. But we have the power to really be their guide next to them, helping them out. We're not doing the work for them. We're pointing things out and we're working side by side with them. So ultimately, if we want them to turn out differently, want them to turn out better, we have to do some things differently. I've seen parenting defined as this long letting go. Coaching is the same way. We're building them to the next level. We're letting them, I've got 2 kids in the hockey program. My son's playing juniors. And I definitely felt that letting go of him over the past few years. My daughter is still home at high school and just won regionals, about to play for nationals. So we're building those skills to let them take off to the next steps and be better players, better building, better humans, really. So we want to give them roots. We want to give them wings. That's my spiel. So that's a lot in a short time. Hope that gives you some things to ponder. I'll be back for the whole question and answer period a little later. But Toby, back off to you. Try to stay on time.